This year, we're going all in for Liberty 2014. And I believe God is asking us to think big, dream big, and give big.
Freedom House is growing. We're starting to bust out at the seams, and in order to accommodate our growing family, we want to bust down this wall and expand out and take up new territory.
Some of the next steps include interviewing project managers, meeting with the City of Charlotte to understand exactly what it is that we need to do to prepare to grow.
Together, we're going to knock down this wall, we're going to advance, and we're going to move forward and grow together.
This year, with your help, we're investing in new technology to enhance our worship experience together.
We're looking to install a brand new projector and center screen on the platform, not only for our worship time, but also for the message. It will enable us to use lyrics, videos, and graphics in a fresh new way.
Together, we can pave the way for those who are coming.
Freedom House currently has a bridge loan that diverts resources that could be better used somewhere else. We could pay this off in full with a lump sum payment of $60,000 and be done away with it once and for all.
1.2 million children worldwide are being trafficked on a daily basis. 43% are being sexually exploited.
I love that She Rescue is on the front lines.
They offer education, vocational training, medical support, and treatment when needed. They also educate these girls' families, going into the community, so they're not just rescuing victims, they're preventing them.
We're not going to succumb to the enormity of the problem. We're going to help the one.
You see how we're going to expand the vision through our Liberty offering this year.
We've been praying, believing, and just really seeking God on what our part would be, and we ask you to do the same thing. How about all of us as a church family? How about we go all in together?
What's up, Freedom House? Are you guys doing good today? Yeah. Even though there's a little sprinkle in the sky, you're doing good? I just want to say thank you because Troy and I were able to be in Florida last week, last Sunday. We were there speaking at a church that we actually oversee, and it's right there in West Palm, and so we got to impart and speak and just love on the people there. So we got to take Freedom House with us when we were gone. So it was great to just be able to love on them and be there for them. And the only problem is I heard Makita did so incredibly phenomenal last week that I heard that we might be needing to submit a few resumes to some places because I think we might have worked ourselves out of a job. But no, seriously, I got to go and watch her after it went up on Wednesday, and she just did a brilliant job. And if anybody could talk about All In, it's Makita. So just really love her and so glad that you got to hear from her. So this week, we have some All In people that are up here, just a great crew. And, you know, in Mark 12:30, it says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, all your strength, everything that you are. And these people that are sitting here with me today are those kind of people. They are all in kind of people. So I wanted you to hear a little bit about their stories, a little bit about who they are, and it'll really bless you and touch you. So I wanted to start first with Bob. So Bob, can you tell us who you are and how long you've been coming to the church? Give us some of the deets of your life, Bob.
Good morning, church. Bob Woodbridge, and let's see, I've been coming here since October, long timer, and really dedicated to building God's church, and that's why we're here.
Now, I love the fact that he started coming in October. He literally came, the very first time he came to church was the men's event that he came, the big men's conference. So he came that Saturday. And then the very first Sunday that he attends Freedom House, the very first one, he's ushering. Wow. And I was just like, man, that's an all-in kind of a guy. He didn't just dip his toe in and wait 6 months. And I mean, he just was here and went full on. And I just knew there was something just special. But Bob, you weren't necessarily always that way in your relationship with God. Matter of fact, you didn't become a Christian for well into your adulthood. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, that's right. It didn't grow in a very godly environment, more ungodly than godly, and didn't know anything about Christ, didn't know anything about Christians, never even heard of a Christian, as a matter of fact, except in the movies, literally.
Didn't hear the name Jesus?
Not in a good way. And,
just as a curse word. Yeah.
But as many times as I heard that word, I never actually realized that there was a person born and raised called Jesus Christ. And yes, I am an American and born in the United States. But, many people out there don't know anything about Christ. But nevertheless, I grew up as a typical American kid without knowing Christ, wanted to be successful, became successful. I was so successful, I successfully lost it all. My life, my family, my everything.
So here you were, you literally didn't know anything about God, and he was in New York. He grew up in New York and had never heard the name Jesus Christ except for as profanity. And you were very successful financially, and you were married. You lost both of those things. So now you're this single dad. You've got 3 kids, and you're raising them, and literally your life is at this standstill, and you had a decision to make. So what did you do in that moment?
My life was a mess, and yes, I was a single parent trying to be Mr. Mom and Mr. Dad at the same time. One thing about my life is I didn't have any joy at all in my heart, any peace, any contentment. I had just misery. And somehow or another, I started listening to the radio, and I started listening to a Christian broadcaster. And through his message, I could see that he definitely had something that I wanted desperately. He had peace and he had joy in his heart, something I really wanted desperately. Make a long story short, I accepted Jesus Christ right over the radio in the privacy of my work, actually.
Isn't that awesome?
And I've seen blessings go to other people that I wanted. And the most amazing thing to me about God is he was willing and always has been willing to bless me and show me his blessings, even though I was so ignorant of his ways and his desires or obedience to anything. But the little I gave him here and there, the little, or actually a lot, he blessed me. And I am so grateful to God because of that we are definitely all in.
Wow. Well, I knew that you were all in the first time that I met you. And I want to hear a little bit, because you started to learn in your relationship with God and your walk with God, you started to learn a little bit. And something kind of took you over the edge a little bit in your learning and your growing. Can you tell me what that was?
Yes, it was a beautiful blonde lady. And she showed me that, again, she showed me that there was someone that was continuously being blessed by God. And one of the ways that I had learned that to experience God's blessings was through tithing. She was a faithful tither. I was a faithful non-tither. She was being blessed. I wasn't being blessed financially. And make a long story short, I started tithing. I couldn't tithe much because although I made very good money through very poor decisions, judgments, and things like that, debts, I didn't really get to keep much of it. But the more I started tithing, the more God started blessing me. I mean, until finally one day, and this is a process of a few years, I actually started tithing 10%. It was a tremendous amount for me at the time. And I started praying, Lord, I'd like to be able to support my wife, because she was actually supporting me at the time, and I'd like to buy a house. Within about 2 months after finally getting to the 10% and doing, I believe, an offering also, I was offered a job where they paid me exceptionally good money, moving expenses, fund money, sign-in bonus, mortgage, assistance. I mean, you name it, the whole thing. And I mean, I'm in. I've seen it firsthand that God blesses those who are obedient to His word, and I'm in. Whatever God says, that's it. It's
awesome.
done.
That's awesome. The other thing that I just really inspired me about Bob is that when they moved here to Charlotte, he is a nuclear planner. That's the way they say it now. So he's got more brain cells than all of us combined in this room. He's incredibly smart, brilliant, just a very successful businessman. And he was offered this amazing position in Wilmington, down by the beach, to leave his contract position in Charlotte. So all the benefits, the finance, just everything. And Bob turned it down. Why did you turn it down, Bob?
You beautiful people. I love this church. This church teaches us about God's ways and how to grow in Him and how to become, well, for me, a much better man. And I've seen that after just a couple of weeks, and I want it desperately. This church, I'm here because of this church.
You're all in. Wow. Isn't that amazing? Just awesome. So speaking of the beautiful blonde, let's hear from her. Dale, tell us a little bit about your story.
Hey, Freedom House. I'm Dale Woodbridge, and I'm from Down Under originally. And let me start with, in 1975, I was married and quite well off.
So you guys had a lot of money.
Absolutely.
Things were going good. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't have to work at that point. Which was a good thing because I had children straight away. So, anyway, in 1977, though, I gave my heart to the Lord, and then years later, with 5 children, aging 2 to 11, I found myself having to leave the environment and support the children on my own.
So you got a divorce. There was your children. You needed to protect them, and there needed to be safety. So now you're a single mom.
Yes.
With 5 children.
Yes, with no support except for welfare.
So you went from lots of money and being married. Now you're single, and you're on welfare.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, it was tough, as you could imagine. After about 13 months, we were able to find a place that would let us rent a 2-bedroom cottage. And we had to have St. Vincent de Paul bring us furniture and everything. And the food, we had people dropping off food to our doorstep because I couldn't afford to buy too much food. And clothing was dropped off to us. And I worked 2 days a week in a pie shop bakery until the youngest one was able to go to school. So
now you're making pies.
I was making and serving pies to people who I had actually gone to college with, because before I was married, I had been a fashion designer and had done layout arts. So it was quite humbling that now I'm serving pies to these people.
So the pun there is you're eating a lot of humble pie.
Absolutely.
Seriously. That's a
Very
lot
much.
of humble pie.
Very much. I kept my eyes on the Lord all the time, but it was hard. It was, yes, you do eat humble pie. I had always believed in tithing, so I was tithing on whatever money I made and whatever welfare. I always believed, and we survived. We survived with, people may drop me $10 now and again, or somehow many miracles that I can't go into, but one of them is when the children once asked me for some jelly jam, a jar of jelly jam. I said, well, maybe one day, because I couldn't afford that.
Couldn't afford a jar of jelly?
No.
Wow.
No, just the essentials I could get. And the very next box of groceries dropped on my doorstep had a jar of jelly jam in it.
Wow.
So I realised how much God cared about a jar of jam for my kids.
Even the little things.
The little things.
Wow.
And God was so good in many ways like that. And we survived. And I put that down to the tithing, that we did survive. It was tough, and there was no luxuries.
So you were tithing off of your welfare check?
Yes.
Wow. That's
Yes.
amazing.
Anything
and your
I
little
get.
pie shop money?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And they would drop us off leftovers at the end of the night. They would drop us off food. So after years of trying to get out of the welfare situation, going back to college, getting a job, school hours, and wanting to get out of that situation, I just continued to tithe again off any work I was getting. But as you go through getting off welfare, you actually go into a worse situation. As you earn more, you lose a lot of benefits.
Wow.
So you kind of go backwards for a time, but I knew I had to keep going to be able to get over that hump to go forwards.
That is a really important thing that I want to make sure everybody catches, is that sometimes when we're following God's will, it can look like in the natural that we're taking a step backwards, but really it's kind of like a bow and arrow. When you pull that bow back, it's not that you're necessarily going backwards, you're just being pulled back a little bit so you can shoot farther. And that's what you're saying. You're saying, I was pulled back a little bit because God had a plan and an experience for me that's way farther than I could have got on my own. That is huge, Dale. I think we miss that oftentimes.
It's something you've got to be determined to do, to keep going through.
Wow.
So as the children grew up and became teenagers, it got more difficult. And I went through a few situations with them, and many people were saying my life was like Job's, which I didn't want to hear at the time. And even a pastor didn't know what to say anymore. A lot of people felt sorry for me and gave me a lot of pity. I didn't want pity, because while I had pity, I had no power. I needed to have the power of God, not pity for myself.
So you can either be pitiful or powerful, but you can't be both. And you chose, I want to be powerful.
Yeah, so I had to step into another realm of thinking, okay, I needed to go to this church that I knew, that had the power, that had the joy, just like this church. I needed that. So I went there and I started to catch the joy. I started to catch what they had because of the preaching, like it is here. But one day, Pastor Phil preached two great scriptures that really hit me, and it was the Matthew 6:31 to 33. In my terms, don't worry about what you eat, wear, and drink, for God knows those things, and He'll provide. But seek first His kingdom and righteousness, and these will be added. So I had to make that step of faith of being all in at that point of, do I believe that? And stop worrying about where I'm going to live and what I'm going to wear, or am I, go back to the worry, So I decided to step into that and go all in and say, this I'm going to believe for. I'm going to start to seek His kingdom instead of worrying about where I'm going to live, what I'm going to wear. And then the other scripture is in Malachi, of course, that we've all heard. How do you rob God? With your tithes and offerings. Well, I had been tithing and I was surviving, but I hadn't done an offering and I hadn't had money. But I decided to do it, and I chose to do $3 a month to a missionary at the church. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do that. And I stuck with that, and I was going to college at that time, and I managed to do that. Then I decided to give $100 for the year to the Kingdom Builders type fund. And I managed to do that. And then I was offered a better job. Then it went to $1,000. And I was offered a better job again.
Wow.
And then it went to $2,500. And the time that I gave the $2,500, I was in a contract job and it was ending. And I thought, well, the week it was ending, I decided I'm going to pay that $2,500 and then worry about where I'm going to work. That week after I paid it, they put 3 jobs on the table and wanted me to work full-time and told me which job do I want, and they were all management jobs.
Wow. So you go from a rich girl to a poor girl to a rich girl who's now a global manager for all, so everybody else is working for you, traveling the world. You're in Paris and California, and that's actually how you met Bob.
Yep.
How awesome. God was setting all that up. Isn't that cool? Isn't that just the best story? And I love the fact, you know, my husband said a few weeks ago, he said, listen, God doesn't care if people have money. You know, oftentimes I think we get hung up on, you know, being concerned whether a Christian is rich or not. And God said, Troy said, God doesn't care if Christians have money. He just wants to make sure that Christians know why they have money. You know, because God, you're just a conduit. All you are, the hose is nothing more than to take water from the spigot, you know, to where its destination is. And I love that concept because, you know, God doesn't want us broke, but He wants us to know why He's blessed us. And you guys know that and you get that. And I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. I love it. And I love the part of you were the single mom who was on welfare and God just redeemed all that. So beautiful.
I went from surviving to thriving.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so speaking of single mother, Shamala, you're a single mom, and literally, you guys, when I say this, I absolutely mean it. Every staff meeting we have, every leader meet, every time any of us gather together, it's Shamala, Shamala, Shamala. Shamala did, Shamala was, Shamala's amazing, Shamala's fantastic. And I remember for a while just going, can somebody please tell me who this Shamala girl is that everybody's talking about? And so I remember just saying, can you show me who is Shamala? Because Shamala was doing everything 100% over the top. And you guys know the old adage that the cream always rises to the top. Well, all I'm hearing about is Shamala. So you're a single mom. How do you go all in? And you've got reasons, so it would seem, not to.
Yes, it would seem. As a single mom, you do everything, of course, because you're by yourself. And I'm a strong believer in God and the place that He's brought me from going through that season, because there's a process to get to single mom. It doesn't happen overnight. I'm also a strong believer that God delivers on His promises. If He brings you to something and He tells you to do something, He's going to provide for you to be able to do that. And He's done that for me. Every time I've had a concern, whether it be how am I going to keep my child, how am I going to get her shuffled around, how am I going to do that? Like, from me opening up to God, He's just brought so many people in my life that have been able to help. Because before, when I went through a really nasty divorce to get there, so I wasn't born and bred a single mom, which made it a little bit harder because you're embarrassed.
Because the sands shifted on you.
Exactly.
There was an expectation that you went into that changed.
Exactly.
Okay.
And at the point, I came to Freedom House about 2 years ago now, and at that point when I came, I was in a completely different mental state. It was like, okay, God, this is my plan. This is where I want to be in 10 years. This is where I want to be in 10 years. And this is what you're showing me where you want me to be. So I'll see you on the weekends, and throughout the week, I'll manage my plan. Well, that's not how God works. I can't do His plan and my plan. I had to pick one. And I was so glad when I picked His plan, because as I opened up to people and let people see, yes, I am a single mom, I had so many great relationships. And if my child is going to be anywhere, I want her to be at church with me, and just seeing the difference in her and us doing that together, not being at home and then coming to church and being completely different. She can walk in these doors and she has 50 different other moms, and it's great. The people that she loves to sing, the people that she looks up to, people like this amazing kid here, John Blake, people like, the worship team. Those are the people I want her looking up to. Quite honestly, I don't really want her looking up to Katy Perry or Beyonce. So it's nice because God has provided. I mean, I could tell you my life is miracle after miracle after miracle from just people helping when I didn't even know I needed help.
Wow. So one of the places that you were found serving with no recognition, nobody calling you out, and you did it just because you wanted to. You were cleaning what?
The bathrooms.
She was in there cleaning the bathrooms so that all of us would have a clean bathroom to walk into. And she just did it because her heart was right. She didn't need anybody to see her. And then I find out not only is she in there cleaning bathrooms, but she's serving in the youth ministry, and the youth ministry is talking about how amazing she is. Then I find out she's in the children's ministry serving, and they're talking about how amazing she is. And then I find out that she's, working with all of our volunteers, coordinating things. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, is there anything this woman can't do? And you have a full-time job. You work for American Express. You actually work out of their New York office, and you do all of these things. Now, how come your church life and your family life, how come they don't compete with each other?
They don't compete with each other because I've been blessed enough to be at a place that, again, God has opened the doors of Freedom House for me and my daughter, and we're able to serve together. I remember when I would teach in the 4-year-old classrooms, she would be washing tables, and she loved it, and it's God's plan. It's not my plan for our life, and when I submitted to God, our life looks completely different than what it did 3 years ago. But when I tell you, I mean, financially, we're peaceful. Emotionally, we're peaceful. Relationally, we're peaceful. And I couldn't ask for more than that. And I know it's because we put God first. We take care of his house and his people, and he takes care of our house and our hearts.
That is awesome. I love that. One of the things that's always been a big deal for Troy and I is ministry wasn't just something that we did, it was who we are. And for our whole family. My kids, there's 2 of them are here in the front row, one of them's running camera. Hey, Colby. But look, we've got 2 teenagers running camera back here. We've got a 12, are you 12? How old are you? 13? How old are you? You're 13. We got a 13 and a 16-year-old running cameras. Do you know why that is? Because their families don't believe that serving or being all in is just for adults. They do it as a family. And I love that because it's never a competition. I'm not going, okay, kids, bye. I'm going to church and I'm going to go do my thing. We do it as a family. We do it together. And the same thing with our marriage. It's not a competition of Troy's off doing whatever, because I get asked all the time, are you okay with your husband this or that or traveling? I'm like, we're all in. We're together. We're serving together. Our hearts are together. And that's just who we are. So I love that. It's not a competition. Love it. DJ, talk to me about your life and about your story, because you were in New Jersey for a while. You had an experience. You had grown up in church and you were loving God's house, and something happened where you got hurt and you kind of had to check some things out in your heart. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I was probably a little older than John Blake, and about 15 is when I really came into relationship with the Lord. And, for me, growing up, I learned an all-in mentality when I was really young. I was an athlete. I played sports.
He was a hockey player and almost went pro. I think your wife, you kind of turned that down because of the gorgeous blonde. She liked you having teeth, and so you kind of turned down the whole hockey thing. So just letting you guys know, don't tick him off, because he knows how to fight. Right, DJ?
I do.
There you go.
So, growing up with the all-in mentality at a young age, that's what I did. I was all in for hockey, and was building a career towards that. And when things changed for me much later in life, come to know the Lord, and that all-in mentality, I just applied it to church, to my walk with Christ, and doing the youth group thing, doing the youth prayer meeting thing, and so I'm going through high school, going through college age, and I got married. I met my wife in the church, and so here I am, an adult, just really plugged in. And, traveling the world with my pastor and doing ministry trips and just committed. 4 or 5 days a week, and then all the weekend services.
You're an all-in guy.
An all-in guy. And things changed for me in my early 20s, newly married, and I started having some dreams and just spending time with the Lord. I felt like a tug that He was leading me elsewhere, outside of, down a different road from the church that I had become such a part of.
Right.
And it was really uncharted waters for me because, why am I going to go somewhere else when it's happening here and I'm being fed and I'm serving and it's just working? And I didn't know what to do with that. So what I did know to do was, talk about it. So I sought out my best friend because he and I same age and same thing. We were all in as young adults, and I remember it clearly. It was middle of the week, and we just got together, and I was just real, vulnerable, and hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm dealing with. Don't know exactly how to process this, but can you pray for me?
Because you're in New Jersey, you're at a church, you feel like God is trying to move you, and you don't know what that looks like. You just want to be obedient to God wherever that looks like, and so you shared that with a friend because, you're a young guy, you're in your early 20s at this point, and just trying to figure out what God is trying to do in your life, and so then you told him.
I did. I told him, we left that conversation. He was going to pray for me middle of the week, and then coincidentally, we had at the tail end of the week, Friday night, we had a members meeting at church and talking about, building fund and, just member stuff with the church. And so I get, to church, I pull up and I'm walking up the stairs into the building, and he catches me. He's like, "Hey, DJ, can you hang out on the side for a second?" I'm like, "Okay." And then, other people are going in, and then he comes over to me, and I remember he told me, this is for members, and gonna have you wait outside. And I remember looking at him, and I remember how I felt, and just the betrayal, and I just felt abandoned. What are you talking about?
Because in your heart, you're just going, if I've got to move, and you're thinking, I just want somebody to pray with me, I just want somebody to be with me, and just kind of, and so he began to share that with other people, and they looked at you. Now you're kind of blacklisted. You're betrayed. Let's just call it what it is. That's abusive. That's a controlling environment, and you just kind of didn't know how to process that at first. So they kind of kicked you to the curb for that. And what did you do after that, DJ? Because that's difficult to go through something like that, and you're young, and here's a church you'd been in, and you saw some things that were going on or whatever. But this is just unhealthy at its core. That you're kicked out.
Yeah, I was kicked out. It's something I had invested my life in, and it's the relationships. I'm a relational guy, and the relationships were taken from me, and I didn't ask for that. I didn't do anything that warranted that. I went to my brother in Christ, and he had my back, and it was hard. It was hard to deal with that. So, my response was to. I was confused. I didn't really know exactly what to do because my world was just flipped upside down. Didn't see it coming at all. But I had this peace inside me that everything on the outside is crazy.
Right.
I don't know up from down. My head is spinning with what is going on.
But somehow you knew that God was going to take care of it no matter what.
So I had a peace that, one thing I didn't do was get mad at God. I had come to know him. And, what was happening, it would have been easy for me to point my finger, God, what is this? I've been serving you. I've been doing the tithe, and I've been doing this thing and committed, and I'm doing it wholeheartedly. I'm not, going at it halfway. I'm all in. And this happens, So I was confronted with, it's time to make a decision. And I chose to run to God, not from God.
Good. Isn't that awesome? Man. So I want to fast forward a little bit. You were in New Jersey. You moved your family. You felt like God was moving you guys to Charlotte, and I'm so glad that he did. You felt like he was moving you to Charlotte, and your heart was in the right place. You're wanting to hear God, serve God, and I think it's amazing because I'm going to tell you, I know there are people that are sitting here in this audience today who have been hurt in church. And I just want you to hear what DJ's saying, and I want you to hear my words, is that God is not the one who hurt you. It was a person that hurt you. And if you stop giving, serving, loving, trusting, caring because a person hurt you, don't put that on God. God wants to heal you. He wants to take that from you. And I just encourage you just to hear what DJ's saying, and don't put that on God, because when you stop serving, there's somebody waiting on the other side that needs you. And it hurts them just as much as it hurts you. There is a blessing in that for you. And I love that you had the maturity to do that, because oftentimes when we're hurting, we don't necessarily have the sense to do that. We just want the pain to stop. So fast forward, you moved down here to Charlotte. Then what happened?
Still walking with the Lord. Didn't run from him. Didn't know exactly why I was called to Charlotte.
I did.
When the Lord speaks, you listen. And when the Lord tells you to do something, you obey. And that's what I was doing. So I get to Charlotte, and it's easy to find a church in Charlotte. There's quite a few. But finding a church and being part of a church are two different things.
Wow.
And
somebody needs to tweet that.
I was in good, healthy churches, plural. And, there's also a difference between, going to a good church and finding your home, where you belong.
Wow.
And, it wasn't automatic. This was 10 years ago. 10 years is a long time.
Yeah.
And, when I came to Freedom House, it wasn't some kind of crazy God story. It was a search on the web, and I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Let's check that out. And we came and remembered as if it were yesterday. It was a Sunday. It was 15 months ago.
Wow.
And as soon as I walked in, I was greeted with a handshake. I was greeted with a hug. I'm like, what? You don't know me. Why are you hugging? And then, I make it in, and I sat in the back. I sat right over in that back corner, and, worship was real. And the message was real. And I had done the church thing a long time, so I know.
You know game playing.
I know that.
You played with the best of them.
Played with the best of them. And, being here at Freedom House, any one of us, can be up here talking about stories in their life, and when you just know, what keeps Bob here, he just knows that he's found something good, and he knows that he's in full alignment with God's will for his life. And the same thing
Good.
for me and my family. I just knew that this is where I was supposed to be. I don't know why it took the better part of 10 years.
Well,
But-
probably because our church started 11 years ago, and we need a little time to handle the greatness of the Clancy family. So we're good now, though. We love you guys. And I love this about the Clancys. They drive 45 minutes one way to come to church, and they've never used that as an excuse to say, oh, well, we can't get involved. You see, we live a long ways away. Or, oh, no, we can't do that because... We have this saying around here at Freedom House, a church alive is worth the drive. So they are amazing, absolutely amazing. And they serve, I remember asking them one day, well, what service do y'all come to? Because I've saw them at multiple, they're like, we come as many as we can come to. We're here, and they are. They're in every little area. Their whole family is just serving and loving, and it's absolutely beautiful. So speaking of whole family, I wanted to introduce you to the youngest member of our little poker setup up here. This is John Blake. John Blake, tell us a little bit about who you are. How old are you?
I'm 13 years old.
13 years old. And John Blake, I've known your family for a long time, but you guys have only been attending the church for about 2 years. But everything I know about you, about your family, you guys are all in people. Everything you do is all in. Your servanthood, your heart, your time, your talent, everything is all in. Why is that?
Well, my parents, that's how I was raised. They've given me the opportunities. They've given me everything I've needed. They've given me the chips and left me there, said, now it's your turn to put it all in.
Wow, and you made that choice to go all in because your parents were amazing parents and helped to raise you and encourage you. And I love the fact that you're all in with everything, because I will see you on a Sunday. You'll be up here on the platform dismissing the kids. You'll be behind a camera, running camera. You'll be out in the lobby greeting people. You serve in youth group on the music team and the leadership team in Vertical. You also, one of the services are over across the street in F2 building serving the kids. And it's just a part of who you are, and you love to do that. So talk to me. This music gift that you have, because it's a pretty phenomenal gift. Tell me the different ways that you go all in with that music gift.
Well, before we moved to North Carolina, we lived in Kentucky. We were living with my grandmother, and there were things that happened in her life that took all of the joy out of her life. And while we were there, it was great for her to be able to say, hey, John Blake, go grab your ukulele, sing me a song. To be there for her, to bring the joy, to brighten up her day was great.
That's amazing. And I also, isn't that beautiful, just to go all in like that for your grandma? I also love that you entered this contest, and it's kind of like American Idol for kids. And it was put on by this radio station, and John Blake wins the whole contest. And he's just amazing in so many ways. So he wins the whole contest, and he gets a boatload of money. Man, you get a lot of money. And you said to your parents, I want to go to church. Get me to church so I can go tithe. Now, you were 12 at the time. What 12-year-old kid says, get me to church so I can tithe? I want to give this. I mean, like, where did you get that from? Like, why is that such a big thing for you?
Well, we're all in. It's ingrained in who I am and what we do as a family.
And you also told me something else. Obviously, we have the big Liberty offering that's coming up, and you told me that you want to participate in that, and you're going to use your music gift to do that. Tell us about that.
Well, a friend and I are trying to learn some songs to play in restaurants and coffee shops and raise money to put towards Liberty.
Isn't that amazing? Because see, he's a kid. He doesn't have disposable income, so he's making it. He's doing what it takes to make sure he's not left out of that. I just think that's beautiful. Now, we've been talking about all in, and what I've noticed about people that are all in, they're not just all in one area of their life. They're just all in with everything. John Blake, you're all in when it comes to school. You make straight A's in school. You're very bright. You're almost kind of like the perfect kid. It's amazing. But you make straight A's in school. You witness to your friends at school. You tell them about Jesus. You love on them. You care for them. You're a light and an example. Now, tell me about some situations at school where you were able to share the gospel, because I know that there are families that come to this church because of the example you were at your school.
Well, whenever I was younger, I listened to a radio show, and there was an episode about Isaiah, and God's speaking, and he's saying, who's going to go forth and speak my truth? And Isaiah says, here am I. And so whenever a situation or an opportunity comes up at school or wherever I am, it's just the call, and I'm always waiting to say, here am I.
Wow. Amazing. So tell me about one of your friends in particular who I actually saw, who's here right now. They went through a difficult time. Something happened in their family. Can you tell me what transpired? Because that was really moving for you.
Well, we became friends, and I invited him to youth, and he started coming pretty consistently, and there was a death in his family, and it really shook his entire family. And I remember one night it was a youth event, and we were here, and he had just finished talking to Weston, praying with Weston, and then I went up and we started talking, and we were right there, and I remember we were praying, and we were holding each other, and I'm glad that God put me in that situation to be able to be there for my friend and to help him whenever he's in a tough situation.
What'd you say to him?
Just said that I'm there for him. I'm there for him, to pray for him, to do whatever he needs.
That's awesome. So you were able to be there for your friend and go all in for him when he was going through a difficult situation. And literally, when I look at your whole life, everything that I see, you've been that way. And I think that's amazing. And I think it's a really good point that you say is your parents raised you to be that way. Your parents exemplified and showed you the way to be all in, whether it was at church, whether in your finances, even as a young kid, whether it's in your relationships, taught you to be all in. But then there was a point where you aren't looking over their shoulder, watching them play the game, that wasn't you anymore. There was a time where you had a seat at the table, you were given the cards, you were given the chips, and you said, I now have to choose this, and I choose to go all in. And I love that. I love that you made that choice, and you were guided in that way by your parents. Thank you so much, John Blake, for just sharing with us. Thank you to all you guys. Wow. I had to fight back the tears a little bit, John Blake. I think you kind of got me a bit.
Whoa, hey. Well, I mean, I had to fight back the tears. Got to keep masculinity.
How many of you think that his masculinity is way up there? That's just a hint for all you guys. Us girls, we like vulnerable men. Yeah, we like that. Well, I just want to say to you that every person that's sitting up here today, they're up here because they're all in kind of people, and I just really want to encourage you in every area of your life, no matter what it is, no matter what you've gone through, no matter what you're going through, to be an all in kind of a person. Would you just bow your head and close your eyes with me? I feel like there's some people in here today, just some people that go, you know what, I need to be all in my relationship with God, and I've kind of been I just need a do-over. I need a fresh start. I need a clean start. I need to start again. And I just want to encourage you, today's your day. You can go all in. And if that's you, would you just do me this favor? Would you just lift your hand up, put your hand up and say, I need a fresh start. I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much to all of you. Fresh start. I want a do-over. Okay, you can put your hands down. And then I believe there's some people in here today who are saying, you know what, I'm walking with God, but there's some areas of my life that I haven't given control over because of something that's happened. It could have been a relationship that went bad. It could have been a financial situation that went bad. And because of those things, you've kind of been holding a firm grip, holding on tightly, and you just haven't let go yet. And you just know that there's areas that you need to go all in and give to God. If that's you, would you just raise your hand up and just acknowledge, that's me? Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Here's what I want to do. I just want to pray for everyone. And if you could, just repeat this after me. And let's just say it all together loud enough for yourself to hear it. Dear Heavenly Father, I just come before you today. And God, I want to go all in. I want to give all of my heart to you. God, I want a fresh start. I want a do-over. God, I want to relinquish control. I want to give you full access to every area of my life. I give it over to you right now in Jesus' name. Amen. Man, I'm just so proud of you guys. So many of you made that decision just to go all in. I just want to congratulate you on that and just tell you how proud I am. And can we just give it up for these guys up here? You guys are so awesome. You're amazing. Thank you for sharing your all-in stories. And I just want to thank you guys. So many of you were so bold to say, I want to go all in. You can have an all-in kind of life too. So stand up on your feet with me. Hey, and I just want to remind you as we're dismissing today, all my ladies, lift your hands up. All my ladies, I want to see you on Friday night at 7 o'clock because we're opening registration for our conference that one night only, then we're shutting it down. So if you want to get a ticket for it, you got to come that night. We're not opening up again until later on this year. So that's our early bird registration. We want you to be there. Come, participate. We will see you guys. Have an awesome day and stay dry.